actually still, it's afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Giovanni Loreto. I am an associate professor in the Department of Architecture at Kennesaw State University. I'm here with my colleague, Jeff Collins, which is going to follow up the second half of the presentation. I'm currently serving as associate dean for research here at Kennesaw State. The way that we decided to implement the studio, the PCI studio within in our program is not through one specific class, but it's like with threads within the curriculum. We highlight a different class at different years. They were actually having already a topic related to precast concrete, and we expanded upon that to another through a specific assignment that was given for the class, or to the semester project, the capstone project for that. We started the grant with only 3 classes, and now we expanded upon all the curriculum from second year to the 5th year, and we are currently reaching 7 classes. So we are reaching approximately all the students in our program, which is 500 students that are exposed to precast material. The project, the way that we are approaching the studio is not faculty-driven, is program-driven. What it means that each year we have one faculty that's kind of like running the show, but then he will pass the baton to the following professor. In this way, if there is any discontinuity, like I cannot teach a class or a semester or something like this one, the program can still go on and is a resilient way for us to have things moving forward. So this year, last year was my year to actually do the most of the heavy lifting. This year is Jeff, and we already have found the person that will follow up after Jeff in the next year. And hopefully you will meet her in the next meetings that we're going to have later on. So this one is a dynamic team. You're not going to see always the same faces, but you will see always the same program. That's the idea. So the way that we're looking at this one, I'm going to just start giving you a few examples of the work that the students do in the class. I will just talk to you about 2 classes specifically, the one that were run in the past semester and in the spring of 2022. And then Jeff will present some of the more advanced work that he's doing. The class that Jeff is using, it's important because we kind of like have an internal rule at KSU that after you are able to offer an elective 3 times consecutively, we can actually get it part of our catalog permanently. So that's the way that we want to ensure the continuity of the program even after the 4 years of the grant. We are currently in our 3rd year. So this one is like an introductory class and second year students. We reach out approximately 135 students this semester, all second year sections. And what they do, they start like a project on the materiality. They look at different materials, and one of these materials is concrete. And one of the techniques that they use is precast concrete by building formwork that are reusable, and they have some parametric design on it. This is the same assignment that we've done in the last couple of years. The way that we're doing it is through a partner, a Metromont. They have like one of the largest plant close to our school, is about 30 minutes. They've been extremely not only generous, but accommodating with us, with our larger number increasing. We usually cast this one on the weekend before Thanksgiving. So it's kind of like also a way to celebrate with students towards the end of the year. And we basically create an assignment in which we have a negative form. We use a form liner to create that the mold, and then we flip the formwork and we use that one for the final cast, so that the students can go through the thought process of a negative formwork and how that one gets developed. Those are some of the examples from the students that we had this year. And again, those are like from all over the scale of the spectrum. Now look at the numbers. Each tile is designed by a group of 2 or 3 students. And the most exciting part for them is actually the visiting of the plant and understand how the process and it works. We do have a lecture for them throughout the semester. Ray Clark, which is the executive director for the PCI in the Georgia Carolinas, comes and gives us this plenary lecture to all faculty, to all second year students, but seeing in person some of the things that we're learning in classes really implement most of the information that they've been exposed to. This is some like a list of the students. I'm trying to speak fast because we have so much material since we are teaching so many classes. So, and I'm Italian, I can speak really fast. Apology. If you have any question later, I'll try to address those as well. The other class that I want to talk about before giving the passage, give the floor to Jeff, is the actually concrete structure class that we teach on third year in architecture program. Last year, we were able to actually do a total precast parking garage that design. When we do this design, we usually tend to have a client that is like within in the community. Last year, the client was the downtown developer authority of Marietta. Marietta is the city in which it's close to Atlanta, in which KSU, the campus, is. And we were able actually to do a little bit of work for the mayor of the city, which actually showed up to our presentation. This project was extremely impactful, not only because we were actually we exposed the program to the community, but actually the work of the precast concrete can be done, and how the community can take advantage of that through the design. The Downtown Development Authority gave us like a grant for students. We have a first, a second, and third place. And we are looking at, each year we're looking at a similar opportunity. This year we have 2 of them that we're trying to kind of like establish, and it will be finalized in the next couple of weeks. We also were featured in the Ashen Journal, thanks to Marty that helped us to highlight the things on the program. And with that said, I have just like, with that said, I'm going to leave the floor to Jeff that is going to talk about the elective that was built from scratch on the for this program. Jeff, I'm going to stop sharing here.
Thank you, Gio. Okay. So you can see my screen now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So what we were interested in this elective, the initial offering was that was from spring of last year, and we're currently teaching the second version this semester, is this the potential of combining 3D printing and precasting, specifically 3D printing of the formwork. How do we have a whole fleet of 3D printers that the college has invested in. How do we kind of get beyond those components and make them into molds for precast? So the class went through 4 phases that'll show us some example work. And we were really interested in this kind of back and forth between designing the module and designing the aggregate of modules. And how do we also get the students to think beyond the facade? Precast facades are beautiful, but how do we, at this level, now that they've taken all these classes that Gio is going through, they have an understanding of precast, a thorough understanding of it. How do we then extend past a facade and into something occupiable? So we started out in a kind of fun way of just collecting everyday items students found or purchased, very cheap items, both to think about and then just kind of combine them together in different ways for 2 reasons: to start to think about any kind of object as a potential module, and also to play with the combination of these modules and aggregates of those modules into spatial systems. So that was a very quick 1-week exercise. We did that same exact process the beginning of this semester. The second phase was 3D printing of those modules. And throughout all these phases, I mentioned also, the students started working, started the phases individually. And then as we went along the semester, they were combined into teams of pairs and then small groups. And then by the end, one large group. So they have to not only kind of change mode, so they're going from a found object into something that they're designing, but now they have to combine the best of these ideas with a teammate or multiple. So this was some of the 3D prints that they made. Again, just like the last time, I was emphasizing iterating on the assembly of those pieces, always including scale figures of them. It really just right away gets you to think of it as a occupiable space. And then also, as they made digital models, they can really quickly make some nice drawings of those. So those were some iterations of the different groups went through. A lot of kind of pretty playful, hands-on in the lab, kind of working together, and they had a lot of fun. Phase 3 was to start to think about how we're going to cast some material. We used resin and plaster, and then eventually concrete. How does 3D printing help with that? We did a lot of trial and error, mostly error, of figuring out how do we actually make these 3D prints usable. We learned a lot, making not just a one-part mold, but mold that is several pieces, which is much more helpful. Thinking of 3D prints as not just they're done, but how do you finish them or sand them, or certainly use formally, same kind of issues that we will eventually come to in the precast. But they did come up with some pretty nice designs eventually. So in the meantime, we also took these students to do even more, more in-depth discussion on at the Metromont site. Folks from Metromont were kind enough to come and do a review on campus. Our students had a lot of fun at the convention last year. We're excitedly organizing a whole crew to come again in a couple of weeks. So they're looking forward to that. These are some final boards that the students came up with in their small groups before we got to the last phase, which was to think about, pouring concrete in the molds and working together, all of us together. So again, the designs were merging as well. We picked these two as sort of the most compelling spatially, and that we could work as a kind of 3D space frame. We made parametric models of those, and still kept this back and forth between digital and physical going. And again, also the relationship between the individual component and the aggregate of those components, and being sure to design at both of those scales. That was really exciting. We got this whole kind of network of these individual modules. Maybe it's a whole new structural system or spatial system for structures. Again, 3D printing, maybe there's even more that we can get from that. Is there something about the way that these components are effective at 3D printing, and that relationship between how one would go about making the formwork for it? And in the end, the takeaways, major takeaways were for pouring concrete in these forms were to make it out of multiple parts, and we started to use this flexible filament that we have. The scale of this one on the right didn't work so well, but when we enlarged the scale, it's interesting, the thickness of the walls of the form relative to the proportion of the model itself. The material actually gets much more flexible the bigger the mold gets. So we made a 5-part mold in the end. Those were bolted together. It was actually quite flexible. This is about 15 inches across, this one mold that we cast multiple times and saw no wear of it. We cast 3 different pieces in it, really just for time. That's all we got to. We could still do more. And in the end, this was our final piece. So again, as I mentioned, there's a lot of things we learned. We're in the first half of the second iteration. We'll offer this course again next spring, and surely we'll learn even more this semester. So we're looking forward to that. Thank you.
And we know that we talked a lot about multiple things. So
Yeah, that's good.
and,
Do you want to mention anything about the Bites conference you're doing with Liz?
yeah, this is the activity for the summer. Thank you for mentioning that. The two things we're going to do in June, there will be the Bites conference. Bites is the building technology, building education. Oh my gosh,
Building Technology Educator
Yes.
Society.
Thank you so much. I've been calling Bites and I was like, it sounds bad. And we are planning a conference in June in Cosanti, Arizona, Cosanti, Arizona, which is in the Paradise Valley, a couple of hours northern than Phoenix. What we're going to be doing with the students this semester, we're going to do a workshop there in March. 7 students from KSU will travel there. We'll actually experiment a little bit more with Precast. Lisa's been making contact with us over there. And the product of their workshop will be part of an exhibition that will be held during the conference in June. It's actually a very exciting first time that we're trying something like this one. Of course, it's going to be lots of like things to figuring out at the last moment, but that actually is something that we are excited to do.